It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hi gang.
Les Webster.
Hello all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Lovely.
Yep. Doing great.
Peachy.
That was such a heartfelt lovely. That felt real good. Warms my heart.
Oh, good.
Woohoo!
I think that's heartburn, dude.
It could be that too. Who knows? Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I've been futzing around. Well, I wasn't even doing it intentionally, but I was futzing around on Amazon Prime. I don't know, a week or so ago. And I accidentally stumbled across something kind of interesting. There are 9 episodes of a TV show on there. The show is called Do Not Adjust Your Set. And there may be a few of you who recognize that name. What that show was, it was a British comedy from the mid-late 60s. And it was the show that Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin were doing before Monty Python came along.
Yep.
And I've watched a few of them so far, and they're actually surprisingly good. I mean, not that I didn't expect them to be good, but it's cool because, I mean, they're really young in the show, and you can see glimmers of what's coming for them because the 3 of them are performing. They also have a very young David Jason, who is also kind of a mainstay of British comedy throughout, like, ever since then. And another young woman named Denise Coffey. And so the 5 of them pretty much handle the load. And they kind of do all the writing for it. And it actually lasted. It ran for, I think it says 29 episodes. There are 9 of them, like I said, on. They were what was released on a DVD several years back, and so that's what got stuck on Amazon Prime. But like I said, it's actually, I was a little surprised how good it is. The other, kind of the flip side of that is the other series, the one that Graham Chapman and John Cleese came from, At Last the 1948 Show, is also on Amazon Prime, at least some of it, if you're curious as to kind of where Monty Python came from. Watching those is kind of an interesting exercise.
That's cool.
That is pretty cool.
I'm envious.
I didn't realize those had been put out in any sort of format. You'd think it would be a no-brainer because you would figure fans would be interested in picking up those shows just to. Yeah.
The trick is that, I mean, the BBC in the 60s, and I mean even before that, they weren't real careful about maintaining their recordings.
That's true.
So a lot of that shit's lost.
We've heard those stories about Doctor Who. That a lot,
Some of those were just made on such crappy tape and recorded over
and over again. Yep.
On the same tape, and yeah, eventually it just falls apart or is unwatchable. And so I suspect that's some of the story with why some of these haven't been on. And like I said, there's only 9 out of the 29 episodes of this show. So
yeah, those may be the only ones that are around. Yeah,
right, or usable.
Yeah,
in whatever form they're in.
Because from my understanding, only reason why the Doctor Who series is pretty much intact is because copies had been sent to other countries for them to show the show. So that's where they got those episodes from.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's actually a pretty common trick with film restoration in general.
right.
Is they'll end up. I mean, if all of the copies of a movie are lost in this country, then you go somewhere obscure in Europe, or send out word that, hey, we're looking for a copy of this, and you'll find it in some small town in Europe or whatever. But
Right. Well, that's cool. I would
That's very
definitely.
cool.
I need to check that out. That's awesome.
yeah, if nothing else, they do like introductory offers for those. For most of the services do it. You can get like 14 days for free or something. Just sign up, and then you get your free 14 days, and then they'll hit you up for a credit card, and you can cancel at that point if you need to, or if you
Right.
decide you don't want it. But yeah, you can. A lot of times you can get in at least for a little bit of time and get a feel, putz around and get a feel for what's in there, and decide if you want to keep it or get rid of it. It would. I mean, like I said, it's 9 30-minute episodes. You could easily sign up for a 14-day free trial and watch them real fast and then bail. Don't tell Amazon I said that, but yeah.
Said what?
Yeah, we didn't hear nothing.
The last thing we need is Amazon coming down on our asses, right?
We love Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon has enough problems right now from. We said we weren't going to get political, but okay.
Right.
Yeah, they're getting enough pressure if you're paying attention to what's going on. So.
Yes, they are.
Alrighty, that's cool. What else has been going on?
Well, I know we don't talk about a lot of TV, but The Walking Dead came back this Sunday, which will be like the Sunday last when you guys hear this, but I have to say I cried through the whole episode. I don't know if I cried more for what I think that they're destroying Kirkman's work or what was actually on the TV screen, but I don't know. As a fan, I don't know where to go from here, you know? I'm kind of torn because I think it's going to be one of those TV shows that I used to watch. You try to catch it and you miss it, and it's no big deal to go make up, which has been my number one show for a while. So I lost a friend today.
Ouch. Damn.
So you're saying they pulled a Fonzie, huh?
Oh, it was pretty bad.
It has jumped the shark.
It has jumped the shark.
And it just, yeah. And like I said, I think, well, not too spoilery, but I think with Glenn, everybody expected it. I mean, it was written in black and white for us. We knew it was coming, so yeah, it was a shock to watch it. But when they take someone who's alive and doing very well in the comic and is a respectable character even in the comic today, it blows.
I get that, but I also get what Kirkman had said before is try not to have one mirror the other. That way, no one has an advantage, and kind of supposedly keeps the stories interesting. I get that. That makes sense.
But you know, when he changes things, it's like one character that wasn't supposed to die a certain way died the way another character did. Those kind of things, hey, that's cool. Because you still got your main storyline. But, you know, Walking Dead has been in comic form for, 20 years now? So when you take something that people have read and enjoyed and made it a success, and when it was pitched to begin with, it was, this is coming off the pages. And I just feel like they've changed the core of what Walking Dead is, you know. They've taken those core people that have made the comic so successful, they've taken them out of the equation now, and it's kind of like, where do you go from there? Their main people now are characters that really haven't been in the comics, so it's kind of like, where do you go from there? You know? And I heard rumor mill that they're trying to cross over and merge Fear of the Walking Dead. And that's why some of these storylines are shaping up the way that they are. And like season finale or mid-season finale, we saw a helicopter And, of course, we know that's from Fear of Walking Dead, but I also hate that now when they show us things like that, it'll be at least 20 episodes before they explain to us why we saw the helicopter over Rick's head. You know? So it's just gotten kind of boring and predictable when you take these people we've invested, so much time with. I mean, one person in particular, we watched him grow up, and then you just kill him like that. So, no spoiler.
None that I heard.
Yep. But it also, on the flip side of that, when you can write something and make people that upset and that moved, I guess it should be an honor, but I don't know.
But it still pisses you off. I mean,
big time.
Because you're upset.
These are people we cared about, And now over, most of the original people are gone, and it's like, well, that's what made me fall in love with The Walking Dead, Not these side people you brought in later. So, I don't know.
Well, they're hoping they can make you care about them, too, but...
Yeah, which some we have, like Daryl. Daryl's awesome, and he's one of the best people on the show, but... once again, two main characters can only carry off so much of a show,
Mm-hmm.
before they decide to kill them and,
And have new main
dump them in
characters.
yeah. Here comes Jesus. So, yeah. And then other things that they haven't even addressed, like Maggie being pregnant. She doesn't even look like she's that far along, but Rick's got a beard and... it's like they're slipping their own timeline to try to catch up with something that I don't even think they know where they're going now. So, I don't know. Like I said, we'll see. Just because I like paying, I'll continue to watch. But I don't know where they're going to go from that.
Well, hopefully it'll be fun finding out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I said hopefully.
I'm just thinking of the people left, and I'm like, I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan should jump ship now. Go back to Supernatural. Your boys need you.
Played out.
Oh. Yeah, Phil said it's played out.
Okay.
Yeah, he gave up on Walking Dead a long time ago.
Not a long time ago.
All right, how about you, Les?
After hearing all this tragedy, I got nothing. No, I'm pretty cold on it. I don't have anything. I read my books, but that's about it.
Nothing jumped out at you with them books?
Obviously not.
Hey, they can't all be winners.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I may continue the downing here, but Star Wars Rebels started up the final 5 episodes, which kind of makes me sad because it's been a hell of a show. I've loved it from the beginning, and last week, or actually 2 weeks ago now, as this comes out, had the first 2 episodes, and something pretty major happened. I wasn't surprised based off the way the season started. I just kind of got a vibe that it was coming, and it happened, and it was handled beautifully. I loved it, but we only got one more episode, and then the final episode's like an hour and a half, and then that is it. But it's been a fun ride. It's funny because you've got 2 movies, well, technically 3 movies, 2 in the actual main kind of storyline, and then another one. But and then of course you had the prequels, but the Rebels seemed had that more of a Star Wars vibe than any of that. And like I said, I love the hell out of it, and I'm kind of sad to see it come to an end. But rather in on its own terms instead of,
being canceled.
well, or just keep on going until all of a sudden it's not high quality storytelling and animation and all that, and so.
Yeah, we certainly wouldn't want Netflix to pick it up for one more season after the end. That's for sure.
Well, there's always a possibility, because I mean, as well as you know as well as I do, and a lot of other people here in the audience, there's a big push on Twitter for another Justice League.
Yeah.
Hashtag JL reunion or
Yeah.
JLU reunion. So who knows? I mean, it was because of the push on Twitter that we're getting another season of Young Justice. So anything's possible.
Yep.
But I guess it's really going to depend on how this season ends, on whether we have a season 5 or not. Because there's some people feel that there will not be a season 5 because there's no one around. They're going to pull a Rogue One. But we'll see.
It's a thought.
We'll see. We'll know for sure here real quick.
Yep.
Alrighty. Before we get into this week's topic, I want to take a couple of moments to thank our sponsors, the fine folks at Things from Another World, for sponsoring the fellowship. Right now, till March 7th, they're running free shipping for orders of $35 or more on in-stock comics and graphic novels. And this is being run in addition to their evergreen deals of 40% off comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off select pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Dent comics. So to get more information about the current free shipping deal, you can just go to our website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Click on our sponsors tab, and you'll see all the information, and there'll be a link there that'll take you to Things in Another World, and just head over there. That lets them know that we sent you their way, and take advantage of some of these deals. Alrighty. So for this week, I think we did something similar before, but it was fun, so we want to do it again. If we did. I can't remember at this point. But we wanted to do a list of movie or TV shows or whatever else maybe that you would like to be seen adapted into a comic book. So this should be fun. Who would like to start off?
Okay. So I have a TV series, and I'm actually, given how long ago this was on like 20 years ago. So I'm not sure how many people are going to remember Poltergeist: The Legacy. But essentially what this show was, the Legacy in the title was an organization that basically investigated like supernatural occurrences. It was the best way I can come up to describe it was kind of a grown-up Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or something to that effect, or kind of a cross between that and X-Files. And it ran. They did like 4 seasons of it. It was actually on Showtime, and this was, like I said, the late '90s. But it was a lot of fun in that it wasn't always supernatural all the time. So there were several people that floated in and out that were like investigators or mediums or eccentrics or whatever, and they would come through and something weird would happen, and so they would go kind of figure out what was going on and kind of try to deal with it. And I just think there was enough stuff there. I mean, for one, like I said, there was kind of almost, it wasn't a comedy. It was a very serious show, but there was kind of that feel that I used to get from Buffy, where it just, even in just the kind of baddie of the week type phases when they were going through that, because I mean, in a 20 some odd episode season, you have to do some of that. I mean, you're setting a tone for the season, and so you're kind of doing the bad guy of the week, and that was kind of, I thought that series, the Poltergeist Legacy, did that really well, and so I think that would translate into a comic series pretty easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can see that happening, and they did not resort to musical episodes or puppet episodes or things like that. They played it pretty straight.
Right. Which is,
and that's why I agree with you. That's why it could be a good comic.
Yeah, it was. They didn't. There were, or I mean, yeah, there was enough. There wasn't, the weirdness wasn't playing with the medium. It was weirdness in the story, which was,
yes.
Which you got a lot of that in Buffy as well, but you also had where they would play with the episodic TV thing, and this one didn't. It was more of a, yeah, like you said, a straight drama with supernatural horror and mystery elements, and it was just, I think it was good enough and stable enough that it would work well in a comic series.
I'm with you.
That's an interesting choice. That's a series I hadn't thought about in a long time. But yeah, I think that would work.
I'm not even sure why I thought of it for this, but it popped into my head the other day. I was like, oh, hey, wait, that would be cool.
Okay. Cool. Who'd like to go next?
Well, I'm kind of bending the rules here because they did a comic book on this one after the TV show, but I didn't like the way they did the comic book. So I would like a supernatural comic book series with not them over, right? Not over in Britain, not, the origin or anything like that. But, the show's been on for 13 years, and they've found a formula that works. There's a bad guy. They find it. They hunt it. But it's kind of neat because they give you the lore behind whatever they're hunting, So I think they could pull it off, episode issue kind of thing, but a good one. Not, like I said, don't separate the boys. Don't put one in Britain. The new Men of Honor thing that they've gotten onto the TV show, they can leave that out too. Just one about the brothers, That's what's made the TV series work. Them two.
You just want more stories like what they've done.
Yeah.
With some...
And, with Supernatural, there's always a big storyline. The host season's usually about something huge. The apocalypse, the devil coming, whatever. But each episode...
Gee, where did they get that from?
Right. Although they're working towards the end, there's always the mini stories that the episodes make that big story up. So they're not just hunting the devil. There's vampires and werewolves that they do in between that story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. It's still happening. The apocalypse is still happening, but in the meantime, still got to kill the vampires and send the demons.
But the world's not going to stop for the world to end.
Right.
So stuff keeps going on.
Yep.
Right. Bad guy
and just trying to get to the end, there's steps you have to take, and which always puts you in a different town, different situation, whatever. But it's kept me interested for 13 years, so I guess the guy who writes Supernatural needs to talk to the Walking Dead guy.
Oh, hey, there's another show that would make a great comic.
Right? Well, see, that's why this was kind of hard, because it's like, well, I watch Arrow, came from a comic. I watch Flash, came from a comic.
Yeah,
Blacklist, they made a comic.
I wanted to put this on the other side on purpose.
Right. So it's kind of like, huh. Which let me know I need to step outside of the comic world and watch some TV shows.
Well,
That's
I mean,
a good choice.
if they get their own comic, then there could be a comic crossover with Scooby-Doo.
Hey.
Hey.
That's coming. Yep. I think they said episode 16, so kind of happening.
Cool.
Yep.
Alrighty. I would like a series based off of Blade Runner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the Harrison Ford or Ryan Gosling's characters. They could, create their own, characters and kind of go from there. But there really hadn't been anything other than the adaptation of the movie and then the adaptation of the original Philip K. Dick story to Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. I think it would be kind of cool. I think they're, kind of go a little bit more into, and of course I'm saying this without having seen 2049, so I don't know how much exposition's been given on some of the history, but I think they could do a little bit with it, have some fun, kind of build that world up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my thing. It would have to be. They would have to build more onto the world to do it, because I don't know if that there's enough in what we have so far to expand that without the same characters. I would be concerned with overdoing it. Just kind of milking the cash cow. You'd want there to be more world building involved so that you could venture off a little bit and not just be in really damn rainy LA in 2019. Because otherwise, my fear would be that would be boring. So yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying no, this sucks. I'm saying
right.
I'm saying yes, but it would take some work.
I think. And I wouldn't think that a comic book reader wouldn't jump at a chance to say, "Hey, this could be fun," and just play around with it. Of course, it's going to depend on. I guess it would have to depend on, if they want to deal with the estate and basically kind of use from the original source, go that direction as opposed to what was done in the films. And I'm not sure who, I don't know if that's still part of the Dick estate or what, but I think that could be a fun challenge for some creator.
Yeah, and that would be the way to go about it, would be to look at it as a challenge. I agree.
Alrighty, Les.
I'm going to come first with Counterpart, a new series on HBO with J.K. Simmons. I've discussed this before, him playing two parts and a parallel world is involved. I think this would be a good one, and it would fit that mold of creation of the world around it. And it's a solid story on television. I can see how they can do extra missions like they did for Blacklist when it was running. They were not the missions that were on television, but they can do something similar to that in Counterpart. I'd like to see them try to come up with separating the two characters and yet get everything that they need involved.
That's a cool choice. Yeah, you've been really high about that series. And the funny thing is I heard someone talk about this show the other day, and I just had to kind of walk away because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were complaining because they couldn't tell the worlds apart as well as the characters. I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. It's just a different dimension. It's just this is what were you expecting? Were you expecting a doppelganger to show up with a goatee? I mean, I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know. It's kind of.
It sounds like they expect something from like The Flash. When he goes to the alternate world, everything is so different. So now I can tell where they are. No, follow the dialogue, watch the screen, and you can figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think that was the deal.
Some people like to have it spoon-fed to them. They don't want to think that hard. But anyway.
That's a good choice. I like that one.
Yep, cool. Oh, wait, that makes me next, doesn't it? Damn, okay. I'm awake. Really, I am. Okay, so I got a movie for this one. And this is actually a much more recent one. Did any of you watch a movie called Stretch from about 4 years ago?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so this was, like I said, 2014. This movie starred Patrick Wilson and Jessica Alba, and Chris Pine was in it, and David Hasselhoff made an appearance, which was honestly made the movie for me. The movie was fun otherwise, but the Hasselhoff scene was just unbelievable. You really kind of have to watch it. Maybe you could scratch it up on YouTube or something, but it's that scene alone hilarious. But anyway, so the story is Patrick Wilson is playing a limo driver in L.A., I believe, and so he has not always been the most upstanding guy, but he's decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop being a jackass. I'm going to stop screwing up my life. I'm going to play it straight. And so he spends. Basically, this movie takes place. It's a night. He gets this job, picks this guy up, and his job is to drive him around all night. And the guy is played by Chris Pine, and the guy's absolutely freaking nuts. And he's just all over, dragging this poor limo driver into parties and just into like a drug deal and just all kinds of crazy shit going on. And all this limo driver is trying to do is get off work so he can go out on this blind date. And that's all he's trying to do. And it ends up, the guy ends up in just the craziest situation. I don't want to spoil too much. It's an absolutely fun movie. It wasn't like the biggest, most successful movie in the world in 2014, but it was a really fun ride. And I think that and something like it would fit into comics beautifully, because it's just this constant string of crazy stuff happening. And so it's an action thrill ride basically. And in my opinion, those types of stories make for fun comics.
Cool.
Have to agree with you there.
That would be cool.
Yep, I'm pretty sure I'm not describing it as good as it is, but
it's all right.
Again, it's not a movie that was rated real well. It's not a movie that made a ton of money, but it was fun. It is definitely worth checking out. Even just as a movie, it is a wild movie, and that kind of stuff. I mean, if there's a current comic that kind of reminds me of it, I'd say The Fix. That's like the closest thing we have to a comic for this movie. And there are differences. There are a lot of differences, but that kind of idea, it would just fit in with that perfectly.
I like it.
Could be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
I guess I'm next. All right. Actually, I kind of stole this idea from somebody else. On Netflix, there's a series called Black Mirror. And it takes like everyday things like social media and shows us how sick and twisted it can be, and this is where we're headed if we don't change. But an artist, a Brazilian artist, took every episode and made it into a retro comic book cover. And it was kind of cool because, you know, once he did that, it was kind of like, well, you know, why isn't that a comic book? Because it's something different every time. It's nothing you have to keep up with as far as, oh, what was the last episode about? So it would be perfect for one-shots or standalones or as a series, you know. But
Right. You could take however many issues of a comic book you needed to tell the story, and it would be a standalone story.
Yep.
Because, yeah, that's the way the show works.
And we'll always give them sick and twisted to draw from, so they would have plenty of source material just from watching the news one evening, you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We've got a lot of material there.
Hey, you know, maybe local news would make a decent comic book series. Who knows?
Yeah.
It'd probably be
Nowadays?
a horror story. But anyway.
Right? Macabre. But yeah, I thought it would be a pretty good little idea.
Yeah.
I'm surprising that has not happened yet, because, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff about that show, so it's extremely popular. And
well, it's kind of cool because they make you think without making you think that you're thinking. By the end of the episode, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
That's just the way I want it.
Yep, we need to put the phones down. We need to talk to each other. Okay. So it's, and then some of them are just disgusting. Anyone who's ever seen it, all I have to say is the pig. That was just gross, you know. But see, everything else.
Okay, so the pig was not what that was about.
That's what I walked away with.
Well, and it was very much in your face, but
right.
that was not the purpose of that story.
Yeah.
The pig was not. That was not the point. That was the distraction. That was the limit that he was supposed to be pushed over.
Yeah. Which he took pretty easily. And I thought it was hilarious that the girl was released like an hour before he actually did it. So it was kind of like, yeah, oh, yeah, so, yeah. Like I said, they definitely make you think, and that's always good for comic books, something to make you think, you know.
Right, and there's a level of weirdness and darkness there that can.
And I would pick Grant Morrison to tell these stories. He's got that weird, you know, psychedelic.
Yeah, keep it light.
Right.
See, I would have went Steve Niles, but that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. This actually kind of popped into my head when Mike was talking about his first choice. Thought, okay, but you would really need to rename the book. This was a TV series that I thought was pretty cool, but it really had nothing to do with the title. They were just banking off the recognition of the name. Surprise, surprise. That doesn't happen anymore.
Oh no, of course not.
Friday the 13th, the series.
I kind of thought about that too, or like a Needful Things kind of thing.
Yeah. Because
they were kind of the same.
So, you know, I can't remember what the name of the antique store was, but you'd maybe call it that, and of course it's, you know, them going around trying to find the cursed items and bring them back. And then I started thinking about that, and it's like, wasn't that Warehouse 13 as well?
That's just what I was going to say. You know, now that you say that, Warehouse 13 would make an interesting comic too. Yeah.
But I like the show.
I did too. I even watched that in reruns.
Yeah, I don't remember watching it. That's not to say I didn't. It's been a while, but.
It's been a while. It's been a long time. That was at the same time as your show. I think it was
So 87 to 90.
yeah. So actually even older.
Yeah, that's quite a bit older, but yeah. No, that's cool. I'd check out that comic.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
obviously, you know, and with that, it could you could do the stories. It could be a done in one, or it could be one that takes a story could be 2-3 issues long or something like that. Just
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
So,
However long it took them to hunt it down, and well, and also what it was doing to that person. Because I
right.
think sometimes the show kind of showed that, but it was more of the ending of what happened to that person.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. My second one is from the BBC, and it's called The Frankenstein Chronicles. And this one deals with a detective played by Sean Bean going through London trying to find the person that is taking body parts. And I think it's about to start, or maybe season 2 is done. But I just like the idea of the somewhat of a mystery in old London. So it's got me going both directions. You've got the mystery and the horror right there with you.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard of
definitely.
that one.
No, I hadn't either. The fact that Sean Bean survived the show, hey, awesome.
So far, anyway.
So far, yeah. I mean, they could always still kill his character off. That's a cool choice, and I'm gonna have to check that show out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Alrighty, that means you're up again, Mikey.
Okay, yeah, see, now you're telling me, because clearly I'm going
Yeah.
to forget again. Okay, so so I got one that is a little bit of a cheat. I kind of bent the rules a bit here, because my idea stemmed from the fact that we've had a few very entertaining and relatively, as far as I know, successful Dungeons and Dragons comics lately.
Hmm.
My problem with stuff that they've done for Dungeons and Dragons in comics specifically is that they have this tendency to create this group of characters that they focus on, and they stick with them forever until the whole idea runs out of steam, and then they stop. And I think this is a bad idea. I think what they need to do is treat it more like a D&D game where you can have different groups of characters doing different stuff, and it doesn't even have to be related. It can be. You can find ways to tie them together if you want to, but you don't have to do that. And so kind of the idea I had was there's this wonderful little trend lately, and I shouldn't call it a trend, um, but I mean, not surprisingly, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so I think taking groups of characters from some actual play podcasts and fleshing them out and creating comics around them would be this really wild, weird indie comics idea for getting a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons comics out there that would be interesting. So, like I said, I kind of twisted the rules of the game a bit here by instead of going movies or TV, I'm using podcasts to start with. But the idea is to essentially kind of backwards license these things into comics. I mean, they're already vaguely episodic, so that would
Mhm.
help. They're usually fair. I kind of hate to say this because I know it's not true 100% of the time, but they're fairly simplified versions of what you would normally get in a D&D game. in order to make it presentable in a podcast format. And basically, I mean, you're taking something, I mean, because a D&D game isn't always episodic, or at least it isn't always episodic in the traditional sense that we're used to in TV. So to be able to break that out into a podcast that's a listenable length, because you can't, I mean, if you have like a 4 to 6 hour game session, you can't, 4 to 6 hour podcasts are hard.
Right.
Trust me, there are a few out there, and they're very, very rare. So you need something that you can break up into hour-long chunks, or I mean, even 2 hours. So it's a bit of an artificial thing to do with a D&D game, which is why I think actual play podcasts are actually difficult to do. There aren't a whole lot of them that I actually like. I have listened to some pretty bad ones over the last couple of years. I've got a couple that I like. So that's kind of that's kind of where my mind went with it all, is that it would be a way to, I almost hate to use this word in this day and age, but it would be a way to pull some diversity into the characters and the parties for a comic setting. It would be a way to, you would, instead of relying on these iconic characters that are very strictly laid out within the game system itself, you would be pulling characters from basically other people's minds to fit into a game setting that you could put into a comic book. And for some reason, I still feel like I'm not explaining it well, but I need to stop because I've been talking too long. I'm sure I've lost all of you at this point, but
You're good.
No, I mean, I think it's actually a kind of cool idea, and yeah, it'd be different, but that's fine. Kind of change things up.
There's only so much you can do with the same group of characters.
Right.
I mean, like for example, the current Dungeons and Dragons comic run, they're, I think, getting ready to start the 4th arc. And honestly, the characters, it's getting a little tired already.
Right.
So if you just get a new group of characters in there every couple of arcs, or you could even run 2 of them concurrently, I think it would be more interesting in terms of attracting people to the idea of Dungeons and Dragons, and also to the idea of creating a good story for a comic, for a high fantasy comic series. You're almost I guess my idea is almost to turn the D&D comic series into kind of an anthology series in a way. You're just doing it all in the same setting, or
Right.
similar settings anyway.
But your endings are not going to be like a choose your ending type book. Is that right?
No, right. You could do it. I mean, you kind of can do it however you want. You can do it with whatever works best. I mean, every group of characters is going to have a different way of dealing with a given problem. And so, yeah, you're going to have some variation in how things turn out in the story. I mean, you're going to have some variation in how the stories work. You could almost tell the same story with 2 different groups of characters and have totally different, just to have totally different outcomes with the same story, starting from the same spot. And that might be interesting in its own right.
Like the old choose your own adventure books.
Kind of, but yeah, you'd have somebody different. You hand a choose your own adventure book to 2 different people.
Yeah.
And you're kind of walking through, except in this case you're doing it with groups of characters. But the idea, is there are different people are going to deal with the same problem in different ways.
Yeah. That does sound interesting.
Think it would work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since you cheated, I'm going to cheat too. And while no one should be surprised that you said Dungeons and Dragons, probably no one's going to be surprised what I'm going to say here.
Yu-Gi-Oh?
What, you want a comic book based off Yu-Gi-Oh, Les?
Hell
I'm
no.
surprised.
You mean there's not one?
I'm surprised, Les. Wow. Okay.
Fine upon you.
Well, you're the one that said it, so obviously that's your choice.
I was asking about your choice.
No.
Okay.
Yes, because I talk about Yu-Gi-Oh all the time on the podcast. Thank you for listening.
It is your downfall, sir.
Obviously, my choice is Dead by Daylight, the video game. For a game of this kind, there's so much lore that they have developed of the characters and of the locations and all that. That doesn't usually happen unless it's a story-driven video game, which this obviously is not. And the lore is actually really cool. And I think it would be, I would love to see it visualized. I think I've talked about it before, seeing it as a possible movie, but I think it definitely would work with as a comic, because you could do just miniseries based off the tales of the killers, of how they became a weapon for the entity, of how they became a person who's gone through such tragedy and stuff like that, to where it became useful for the entity and is giving these abilities. But for them to have this, they have to obviously sacrifice other people for the entity. I think it would actually be kind of cool. And then obviously the and then just kind of going on from there of new people being trapped on these locales trying to escape and that kind of thing. And actually, it would be kind of a neat opportunity to introduce a new killer in the comic first, to kind of drive up a little interest into the next
DLC.
The new DLC.
Yeah.
Say, hey, here's the killer. You'll see him or her here real soon. Here's the story about them.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it would help both worlds.
Yep.
I could see that. Yeah, it'd be a really cool way to get professional writers to come in and write shit for your game.
Yeah.
Which is honestly always a good idea.
Yeah.
If you can.
Well, like I said, if you ever get a chance to kind of just check out some of the lore that they've developed, and this is just enough to kind of give you a little taste of how, where everything came to where it is. Let's have a writer actually expand it even further, and that kind of stuff. I think it would be really cool.
See, I like that idea better than like what they did with Injustice. If you have to write a comic book to explain your video game to me, you've lost me.
Right, if you have to. But if you're doing it in order to build the lore, that's kind of the other direction.
Totally different,
right.
Yeah.
Right, that's kind of
Instead
more
they complement each other. And
right.
Although there have been games like one of the Batman games. Oh, it was the third one in the series. I can't remember the name. But they show that Harley had a pregnancy test and it was positive. They never addressed that again. So it'd be kind of neat to have a comic book in between there to kind of tell us, hey, here's what it was, and, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of tie up the loose ends that the games have left.
There's a touching moment. Give us a story to tell you what it was.
Yep. Well, see, I think with some of the Batman games, you had Rocksteady do some of them, then WB decided they could do them, and then I forget, was it Lionsgate who did one of them? And so when they took it from Rocksteady, who really did the best Batman games, kind of like the story changed. So they never really got to tell their story the way they wanted to because, I don't know, they cut corners and went with someone different. So, which sucks that it happens, but when you have games that are released where you know you're telling a story over 5 video games, there's going to be a breakdown somewhere.
Right, and you're
True.
assuming that your first game is going to sell well enough that you're going to actually get the 5th one out.
Right.
And yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Be easier to do that with comics.
It would.
Comics
Yeah.
are way cheap. Comics are not cheap, but they're way cheaper to make than video games are.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and they keep a sequence. Like with the Batman game, they threw an origin right in the middle of the the series, and it's kind of like, what? Shouldn't you have done this first? Plus, they made all of our controls backwards, so that kind of sucked.
Nice.
When you've been playing a game for 3 years, and all of a sudden the B button is not the B button anymore, that just kind of sucks.
That's tricky.
Yep. But on a positive side, Rocksteady did get the Batman games back and finished it right, so.
Well, good for them.
But I still don't know what the pregnancy test was. So if you're out there and let me know. Hit me up on Twitter.
There you go.
I want to know.
Inquiring minds and all that.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, Les said that he wants a Yu-Gi-Oh comic, so Mike, you're up again.
You want me to pull out my pocket one, huh? Okay, so this one is another big cheat, honestly. This is not, at least I don't think it was ever made into a movie, and I'm pretty sure I would have heard about a TV show. So basically, the book that I think would make a really interesting comic, because I'm not really a movie TV guy. And I'm honestly, this is one I'm not sure what kind of comic it would turn out, because the book is so damn crazy to begin with. I mean, it would just have to be a fun comic, even if it didn't make any sense. I mean, if they can make a really cool comic out of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, then damn it, I want to see a comic made out of the Illuminatus trilogy. Because,
Ooh. Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to go wholesale crazy, let's just do it and see what happens. I just think it would be a really interesting way to present that material. Because I don't think you're ever going to movie made out of it. Because if that was going to happen, it would have happened decades ago. But why not a comic?
Okay.
And part of this is based on the idea that I've been meaning to reread that for a while, and I just keep not getting around to it. And I need an excuse, so give me a comic based on it. That'll make me read it.
Well, they did a comic, did they not?
Did they? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Probably would have been a long time ago.
I'm thinking a couple of years ago it was a comic that came out.
I don't know. I have to look into that.
I'm probably wrong, but...
You remember who did it? I mean, what publisher?
With what, sir?
With the publisher? Do you remember what publisher did it?
Offhand, I don't. But I could have sworn that like you guys had the comics coming in. You had a subscriber to it for a short while.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not recalling it, but that don't mean that we didn't. Okay.
Anybody else got any more?
The one I do have is a pure fascination with the TV series, and that was Psych. I can see this being done because it's going to be a one-and-done series. Each comic is going to have one episode, and that's it. So you're going to have to really get a writer that's got his cap on to get everything situated for the crime to be solved, and then toss in the other stuff.
Okay.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, if they can make Dirk Gently comics, they can certainly make Psych comics.
Very true.
Very cool. All right. Pretty cool choices. Everybody out there who's checking this out, you have your suggestions, hey, send us a tweet or a message or something like that, and we would be curious to know what you would like to see as a comic, based off a movie or TV show or game or book.
Or anything, really.
Or anything. Just let us know. That would be awesome. All right, with that, we're going to take a quick break and come back for our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks. Leading off is Liz.
All right, for my first pick, I am going with Oblivion Song by Kirkman. It says that 300,000 Philadelphians were suddenly lost in the oblivion. And after all these attempts to try to get them out of there and everything else, the government's finally like, we can't, we're sorry, they're gone. But there is one guy who keeps going back, and they haven't really told us what he's looking for, if maybe it was family on the other side or what. So this one should be pretty good. Kirkman always tells a really good story, so I think this will definitely rank up there with it. But it's the first one. It's going to be ongoing, so jump on it. Should be a good ride.
Yeah, I think you're biased towards Kirkman.
Maybe just a little. Just a little.
No, he does tell a good story.
He does.
Yeah. Alrighty. Mike, you are up next.
I'm next. Okay. Well, my first pick is from Action Lab. And it is Actionverse, featuring Stray number 6. This is their ongoing Stray comic, and so that's really cool. And this issue, actually, it looks like it starts as a new arc. And so there's an online journalist who has uncovered something that he or she should not have, and so now there are assassins coming after him, and so he's gonna go. This person is gonna go find our buddy Stray. So simple protection job. Yeah, we'll just call it that. Sure, that'll be fun, right? But yeah, no. This is Stray is actually the first arc of this series was really cool. Gave us a nice opportunity to get to know the character a little better. Stray's been around a bit. He's been through. There was at least one limited series before, maybe 2. Were there 2, Tom, or was it just the one?
I know there was one, and then there was the whole crossover thing, but
okay, maybe that's
I don't know if there was a second miniseries, but I can't remember right now.
Maybe that must have been what I was thinking of. But yeah, so very cool crime fighter story. Good stuff. Good jumping on point.
Yeah, this has been a cool book. I like Stray, a creation of our friend Vito Delasante, and of course he's writing this series, and it's been fun. It's been a really fun book. I kind of like the world that Action Lab has built, or actually the writers have built for Action Lab. And we should be seeing more of Midnight Tiger here in the not too distant future, which is another really cool character. Definitely, it's funny because there's a kind of a Spider-Man vibe to Midnight Tiger. I don't think it's intentional. Where Stray, there's more of a Nightwing kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
But he's obviously his own character, so if you're a fan of those characters, you really need to check out this series.
Yep.
Alrighty, I am next, and for my first choice, I am going with a title from Oni Press, and it's called Ballad of Sang, and this is a miniseries. This is the first issue, written by Ed Brisson And it tells the story of a boy who was kidnapped off the streets of the Philippines and was trained to be assassin. And he's still a kid though, but he's assassin. And when his master is killed, he decides to get revenge of the crime lord. So it sounds like it's kind of an intriguing little mini series. I definitely want to check it out.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah, sounds cool to me.
It does.
Alrighty, Les, you are next.
My first choice is what they say is perfect for fans of Vikings, Conan the Barbarian, or Hellboy. This title is Spider King. It's coming out by IDW Publishing, written by Josh Van, art by Simone DeMarni. It's just that, a fleet of spaceships crash in northern Europe in 956 AD. Vikings come across the ships and are the last line of defense against the Spider King. This was a award-nominated Kickstarter graphic novel. Did we not cover this one in one of our broadcasts? It just sounded familiar.
It's possible.
It doesn't ring any bells on me, but it's possible we did.
But
Or it could have been one that you came across looking at other ones. Who knows?
And yeah,
That's
one
true.
that you tossed, one that you didn't choose. It's
Yeah.
very possible.
So I'm into this. You've got the future technology, you've got the aliens, you've got Vikings. And let's see how this plays out. This sounds a lot more interesting to me than cowboys and aliens.
Now, we're talking about the comic series or the movie?
Kind of a yes on that.
Hey, now I like the comic. The comic was actually pretty good. The movie was just horrible.
True.
Yes, it
Cool
was.
choice.
Yep.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. My second one is also from IDW. It's a new one starting up called Highest House. This will follow a slave boy named Moth who makes a new friend with a entity called Obsidian. And of course, he promises him happiness and his freedom and everything else, but as we all know, those always come with a price. So I think Moth thinks that he can outbeat him, and this entity thinks, no, he can't. So it kind of reminded me of like a Devil Went Down to Georgia kind of thing. The final battle. So this should be cute. The covers is by an award-winning artist named I'm gonna mess their name up. Yuku Sumutsu, and it's just absolutely gorgeous covers. So definitely check this one out. Like I said, it sounds like a pretty interesting little series here.
Cool. Could be fun.
It does sound cool.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay. So from Aftershock Comics, we've got the trade of the first arc. I'm going to be optimistic here and hope that there's more coming. Not sure. This is a story that kind of has a beginning, a middle, and an end to it, so there may not actually be a second arc of this. But this is titled Unholy Grail. This is written by Cullen Bunn and drawn by Mirko Kolak, and it is the collection of a very interesting, I think, kind of what-if scenario, which is what if in the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, what if Merlin instead of being the kind of benevolent wizard that everybody always likes to think he is, was an evil demon from hell and forced this power on Arthur and forced him to rule and manipulated and twisted a whole bunch of stuff along the way. So it's a fairly dark story, to say the least. And Arthur becomes, I think, honestly, a little more interesting character than he was otherwise in more traditional tellings of this story. But it's a really cool read. It's very different, and it has this interesting tone balance thing going on where you've got the whole King Arthur is a force of good versus what's really going on in this story, which is Merlin is a vicious, nasty, evil thing. But so yeah, I enjoyed it.
It does sound pretty cool.
And I must say, Mike, good sell.
Way better than the thing I tried to sell earlier, but yeah.
Alrighty. For my second choice, I turn to Dynamite Comics. And it is a new Green Hornet series. And this is being written by Amy Chu. And the premise is Britt Reed is MIA. So what happens is, and according to the solicits, it's former partner Kato and his daughter decide to protect Century City as the new Green Hornet and Kato, but it's going to be Mulan the daughter as Green Hornet, and while they try to figure out what happened to Britt. I'm intrigued. I like Amy Chu's writing, so I'm curious to see how she's going to handle all this. But it could be a fun ride.
It's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm interested because it is the Green Hornet to start, and Amy Chu doing the story is going to be well worth the time.
Yep.
Cool.
Les, you're up again.
For my second choice, Dynamite Entertainment brings you a trade of Swords of the Swashbucklers. This was a 12-issue series that Marvel did many years ago. Bill Mantlo was the writer, and the illustrators were Colleen Duran and Jeff Isherwood. I really enjoyed this series, and this was this 80s?
Yeah.
Late 80s?
Something like that.
And I enjoyed it because you've got pirates and space and all sorts of stuff going on. Is it true that they are coming out with a new series or not?
Yes, this is a kind of a primer for the new series that will start up in April, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, good. I'm definitely going to have to finagle my way into getting one of these, but it's fun.
Nice.
Yeah, this is one that I missed back in the 80s, and I've heard so many good things that I kind of kicked myself for not getting it, and now here's my opportunity.
You've got a chance.
Yeah.
Got another chance.
Second chance.
Cool.
Alrighty. And then I have our honorable mention this week. And hey, it's DC Comics. Wow. We can only our first DC Comics this week.
Finally snuck one in here.
Yeah, there we go. And it is Commandy by Jack Kirby Omnibus. Obviously, this is by Jack Kirby. But this collects the first 40 issues of the series, which I guess that's as long as he was on the book, which is it's kind of kind of strange because Commandy only lasted about 52, 53 issues. So it's like, you kind of went this far. Why didn't you just try to put in the other dozen or so books and just make it a little thicker and charge a little bit higher price? And there you go. That's the complete Commandy. But hey, I'll take this. This is going to be awesome. If you're not familiar with Commandy, it was touted as the last boy on Earth after some sort of apocalypse, the Great Disaster, I believe is what they called it. And once you first start looking at the series, you could see if you checked out the Commandy challenge that was from last year, you have an idea. It's a world where you have humanoid animals, and it's only him and one other human on the planet. But it was a really kind of interesting book. So it's cool that they have put this out. They're putting this out because I've been wanting these collected. There's a they put out 2 volumes of hardcover volumes collecting these, but the first volume has been out of print for years, and they've never gone back to do a new printing. But now that they do this, I don't have to worry about that. Just get the omnibus.
There you go.
There you go.
Cool. Again, a second chance.
There you go. Alrighty. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
I'll throw in a quick get well soon to fellow podcaster and guy who's never heard of us before, Kevin Smith.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
I am at least a fan of a lot of his work, and so I hope he has a speedy recovery.
Yep. Me too.
Here.
I'll always see him as Silent Bob, though.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
It's funny when all that came down and you started seeing people talk about it. One person really hit the nail on the head that he's a great spokesman for comics. He's a lot alike in like Stan Lee. He's a great cheerleader for the industry in the books. Whatever you think about him as a writer or an actor or a director and all that, he's a really cool guy. He has a great passion for comics and telling stories, and we do wish him well. We wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah. And a lesson to all of us: listen to your bodies. It'll tell you when something's wrong, and he's very fortunate that he did. Because what he had is actually called a widowmaker. So had he not went in time, we'd be talking about his passing away. So.
Yeah.
And I think one of the great things that when he addressed his fans, I thought was sweet is, I guess, when you face death that way, and he was like, "It's been a great ride." What a accomplishment to, in the face of death, I can look back and say, what a great ride. No regrets. I'm good. So.
Yeah, but he's nowhere near old enough to be leaving us.
No,
shit. Come
not
on.
at all.
He's only a few years older than me.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Well, and he knows where his mistakes were made, and it's good now that he's like, I need to make a lifestyle change. So,
right.
Like I said, he's listening to his body. So,
good.
Godspeed.
Alrighty. With that, I guess we'll get into our regular shout-outs. First off, Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. Definitely go check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes, or you can go to the website and click on the podcast page, and there will be a link there that you can take you to their couple of EPs that they have put out. I also want to thank fine men and women of the Potter family for spreading the word of the fellowship on Twitter. You should definitely go check them out if you're looking for any kind of podcast. Just it doesn't matter. Even if you're not, just go over there, go to Twitter, hashtag Potter and Family, all one word, and just kind of scroll down. If something catches your eye, go over there, click on the link, download the episode, check it out. Who knows? You may find a new show that you just can't live without, and that'd be awesome. So, thank you guys for your support, and obviously you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode, and we appreciate your support in the past. As always, we value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, complaint, anything else, we're always willing to listen to what y'all have to say, and there are several ways you can contact us. Email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can go that route, or you can go to the website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Click on the About Us tab, and there's a contact form that you can fill out if you like. Or you can contact us through social media, or you can just follow us through social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, or you can follow us on Twitter, at Fellowship Geeks. And no, we're not on Vero, and we don't plan to. We're going to be one of the few people who want to go over there, so don't look for us there. If you like to follow us individually on Twitter, you feel free to do that. Mike is at Mikey Geek. Liz is at Newman_L. And I'm at Tom TC Geek. Feel free to follow us. And just say hi if you'd like. And wherever you download or listen to our episode, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, if you could please rate our show, that would be awesome. And if you have a couple additional moments, a review would be awesome. Would be incredible. We would greatly appreciate it. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everybody, for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,